At Christmas dinner, my sister smiled and said, "Mom and Dad mentioned I can move into your new condo next week." I calmly took a sip of wine and replied, "Oh, thanks for the heads up." Tuesday sounds perfect. When she showed up on Tuesday afternoon, that cheerful smile vanished instantly. But before we get to that, let me explain how we reached this point. My name is Diana, and I'm 29 years old. I've been working since I was 16, starting with weekend shifts at a grocery store in Austin while finishing high school. After graduation, I enrolled in community college and worked full-time as a hotel front desk clerk. The overnight shifts were exhausting, but I needed the income. My parents never offered any help with tuition or living expenses. From the start, they made it clear I was on my own. My younger sister, Veronica, lived an entirely different life. She's 25 now and has never held a job for more than 3 months. Our parents financed everything for her: her car, her phone, her shopping sprees, even her credit cards. When she dropped out of college after just 1 semester because she found the workload too stressful, they didn't pressure her to find a job. Instead, they kept supporting her while she stayed home, scrolling through social media and complaining about how dull Austin was. I moved out when I was 19, renting a small studio apartment that smelled like mildew and had a radiator that clanked all night. But it was mine. I kept working hard at the hotel and eventually became an assistant manager. I saved aggressively, sometimes skipping meals just to set aside a few extra dollars. By 24, I had enough for a down payment on a modest home in a decent neighborhood. My parents didn't come to the closing. My mom said they were busy, and Veronica didn't even respond to my text. 3 years later, I bought a second property, a 2-bedroom condo in a newly renovated downtown building. It was a smart investment. The rental market in Austin was strong, and I knew steady tenants could help me pay off my mortgage faster and build equity. I closed on the condo in early December and felt proud. At 29, I owned 2 properties with manageable loans and a solid financial plan. Every bit of it came from years of hard work and sacrifice, and seeing it all pay off was deeply satisfying. During a phone call about Christmas dinner, I casually mentioned the new condo. I said I'd just closed on it and was excited about the rental income potential. My mom simply replied, "Oh, that's nice, dear," before changing the subject to dinner plans. On Christmas Eve, I arrived at my parents' house with a bottle of wine and a homemade apple pie. Everything looked the same as always. The same old decorations, the same artificial tree, the same familiar smell of ham roasting in the oven. Veronica was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through her phone in pajama pants and an oversized sweatshirt. She barely glanced up. "Hey," I greeted. "Hey," she muttered, eyes glued to her screen. Dad was in the kitchen carving the ham, while Mom set the table. Everything seemed routine. We sat down around 7 p.m., chatting casually about the weather and neighborhood gossip. Then, halfway through dinner, Veronica suddenly looked up with an unusually bright smile, the kind I hadn't seen in years. "So, Diana," she said excitedly, "Mom and Dad told me I can move into your new condo next week." I froze, setting my fork down and looking at her, then at my parents. Mom focused on her green beans, and Dad kept cutting his ham like nothing had happened. "Excuse me?" I asked. "Your downtown condo," Veronica continued eagerly. "Mom and Dad said I could move in." "I'm so excited. I've been dying to get out of this house and live somewhere more exciting. Downtown is perfect." I glanced at my parents again. My mother finally met my eyes, her expression calm and detached, as if we were simply talking about the weather. "Well, you have that extra property now," she said casually. "And Veronica needs a place to stay. It just makes sense." "It makes sense," I repeated slowly. "Yes," my father added without looking up from his plate. "You're doing well, Diana. You can afford to help your sister out." I took a slow sip of wine, letting it rest on my tongue before swallowing. My thoughts were spinning, but I kept my face composed. Years in hospitality had taught me how to mask emotion when needed. "Oh," I said lightly. "Thanks for letting me know ahead of time." Veronica's smile widened. "I know, right? I didn't want to bother you with the details. Mom and Dad said they'd take care of it." "You should move in on Tuesday," I replied, taking another sip. "Perfect," Veronica said brightly. I already started packing. My mother looked relieved. My father nodded with quiet approval. Veronica went back to scrolling through her phone, probably texting her friends about her new downtown apartment. I finished my dinner in silence, answering when spoken to, then left around 9 with a polite smile and a wave. The drive home took 20 minutes. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles pale under the streetlights. I was furious, but also focused. I'd learned long ago that anger without direction achieved nothing. Back home, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and a cup of coffee. It was nearly 10, but I wasn't tired. I opened my email and began drafting a rental listing for the condo. I had planned to wait until after the holidays to find tenants, maybe furnish the place first. But plans change. I wrote a detailed description: 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a modern kitchen with stainless steel appliances, in-unit washer and dryer, balcony with a downtown view, close to shops and restaurants. I set the rent at a competitive rate, confident it would draw interest fast. Then I grabbed my camera. I drove downtown and spent 2 hours taking photos of every angle. The empty rooms looked better than I'd expected. The hardwood floors gleamed, and the big windows filled the space with light. By midnight, the listing was live on 3 rental websites. I turned on notifications for new inquiries and finally went to bed. When I woke up the next morning, there were already 17 messages waiting. Apparently, affordable 2-bedroom condos in downtown Austin were in high demand. I spent Christmas Day replying to inquiries, arranging showings, and conducting background checks. By December 26th, I had 3 promising candidates. Each had stable employment, solid credit, and excellent references. I set up in-person tours for the 27th. The first applicant, Jessica, was a physical therapist at a rehabilitation center. She was polite, professional, and instantly loved the condo. She asked smart questions about the building's amenities and the neighborhood. With a steady 4-year job record and good income, she seemed reliable. The second was a married couple, both teachers at a nearby middle school. They were friendly and upbeat, mentioning how this location would cut their commute time in half. After years of renting in the suburbs, they were eager to experience downtown living. The third candidate was a graduate student who worked part-time at a research lab. Quiet but dependable, he came with excellent references. His former landlord confirmed he had never missed a rent payment. All 3 seemed like great options, but Jessica stood out. She had everything I wanted in a tenant: stable income, clean background, strong references, and genuine appreciation for the property. That evening, I called to offer her the lease. "Really?" she said, her voice filled with excitement. "That's amazing. Thank you so much. Can you sign the lease and move in next week?" I asked. "Absolutely," she replied. "I can sign tomorrow if that works." "Perfect," I said. "Let's meet at the condo on Friday at noon." "I'll be there," Jessica confirmed. We met on Friday, December 29th. Jessica brought a cashier's check for the first month's rent, last month's rent, and the security deposit. We sat at the kitchen counter and reviewed the lease page by page. She read carefully, asked a few questions, and signed confidently. "When can I move in?" she asked. "Whenever you're ready," I said. "You officially have the keys now." Jessica smiled brightly. "I'm thinking Tuesday. I have the week off, so it's perfect timing." "Tuesday works great," I said, handing her the keys. We shook hands, and she left with a bounce in her step, already texting someone about her new home. I sat in the empty condo for a few moments after she left, feeling deeply satisfied. The property was rented, the lease signed, payment complete, and the tenant trustworthy. Everything had gone smoothly and professionally. I locked up and drove home, already thinking about how I'd spend my Tuesday afternoon. The weekend passed as usual. I worked my shifts at the hotel, ran errands, and hit the gym. I didn't contact my parents or Veronica, and they didn't reach out either. That was normal for us. We weren't a close family and mostly spoke during holidays. On Monday night, I got a text from Veronica. "Still good for tomorrow?" "Moving in around 2 p.m. I smiled and replied, "Yes. See you then." She responded with a line of excited emojis. I went to bed early, setting my alarm for 7 a.m. Tuesday was going to be an important day, and I wanted to be well rested. When I woke up, I felt calm and focused. I even made myself a proper breakfast: scrambled eggs, toast, fresh fruit, and coffee, something I rarely had time for on workdays. I ate slowly, enjoying every bite. Around noon, I texted Jessica. "Hey, just checking in. Are you moving in today?" She replied almost instantly. "Yes, the movers are loading the truck now. We should be there by 1 p.m. "Perfect," I wrote back. "Let me know if you need anything." "Will do. Thanks again for everything." I spent the next hour cleaning my own place, doing laundry, and keeping myself occupied. At 1:30, Jessica texted me a photo of her new living room. Boxes stacked neatly along the wall. Made it. This place is even better than I remembered. I smiled and sent back a thumbs-up emoji. At 1:45, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Diana," she began, her voice tense. "Where are you?" "At home," I said. "Why?" "Veronica is at the condo," my mother replied. "There are people there, moving furniture in?" "Oh," I said evenly. "Yes, those are my tenants. They moved in today." There was a long pause. "Your tenants?" my mother repeated. "Yes," I said. "I rented the condo out last week." "I thought I mentioned that." "You most certainly did not," she snapped. "Veronica is outside with all her things. She's humiliated." "I'm sorry she's upset," I replied calmly. "But the condo is rented now. I have a signed lease and everything." "Diana, this is unacceptable," my mother said sharply. "You knew she was moving in today." "Actually, I didn't," I replied. "No one asked me. You all just decided Veronica would live in my property without consulting me. I own that condo. I paid for it myself, and I chose to rent it out," my mother stammered, searching for words. I could hear my father's voice in the background asking what was going on, and Veronica crying, high and hysterical. "This is your sister," my mother finally said. "How could you do this to her?" "Do what?" I asked. "Rent out my own property? Use my investment as intended?" "You're being selfish," my mother snapped. "You have a whole house. You could have let her stay there for free." "That wasn't a question," I said. "She's family," my mother insisted, as if that justified everything. "So am I," I replied. "But that didn't stop you from expecting me to give away what's mine without asking." "We told you at Christmas dinner," my mother argued. "You informed me of a decision you'd already made," I corrected. "That's not the same as asking." Then my father took the phone. His voice was firm, the same tone he used when I was a child and had done something wrong. "Diana, you need to fix this," he said. "Your sister is standing on the sidewalk crying. The neighbors are watching. This is embarrassing for all of us." "I'm sorry she's embarrassed," I said. "But I can't fix this. I have a legal lease with tenants already moved in. The condo is occupied. Break the lease," my father demanded. "I can't," I said. "And even if I could, I wouldn't. This is my property and my decision." "After everything we've done for you," my father said, his tone thick with disappointment. I almost laughed. "Everything you've done for me?" "Like what, exactly?" "We raised you," he said. "You were legally required to do that," I replied. "I've been financially independent since I was 19. I paid for my own education, car, and housing. You haven't given me a single dollar since I moved out. Meanwhile, you've supported Veronica her entire adult life. So please, don't talk to me about what you've done for me." Silence followed. I could hear my mother crying softly now, and Veronica's sobs still echoed in the background. "You're being cruel," my father said softly. "No," I replied. "I'm being fair. I worked tirelessly for everything I own. I spent years saving and sacrificing to achieve financial security. Veronica, on the other hand, has never worked for anything, and you allowed that. You made her believe she could take whatever she wanted without asking, earning, or considering other people's boundaries. She's your sister," my father repeated, as if saying it again might change my mind. "And I'm your daughter," I said. "But you never treated me the way you treated her. You didn't pay my bills, buy me cars, or let me live rent-free. You expected me to stand on my own, and I did. So now I'm managing my property the way I choose." My father fell silent for a long time. Then he said, "Your mother and I are very disappointed in you." "I can live with that," I replied. "Goodbye." I hung up before he could respond. My hands trembled slightly, adrenaline pulsing through my veins. I set the phone down on the kitchen counter and took a deep breath. I had just drawn a firm boundary with my family, and there was no turning back. But I didn't regret it. Not for a moment. My phone buzzed with new messages, first from my mother, then Veronica, then my mother again. I ignored them. I silenced my phone and tucked it into a drawer. Pouring myself a glass of wine, I stepped onto the back porch and gazed at my small but well-kept yard. The flowers I planted along the fence last spring were still blooming despite the cold. I had painted the porch myself, a soft gray that complemented the house perfectly. Every inch of this home reflected my effort and choices. The downtown condo was no different. I chose it carefully, negotiated the price, secured financing, and closed the deal on my own. It was mine. Not my parents', not Veronica's, mine. I had every right to decide what happened with it. I sipped my wine slowly, feeling the tension fade from my shoulders as the sunset painted the sky in warm hues of orange and pink. It was peaceful. Around 6 that evening, I checked my phone. 12 messages waited. Most said things like, "How could you do this?" Or, "You're tearing this family apart. Veronica is heartbroken." One message from Veronica stood out. I had to go back to Mom and Dad's. Everyone saw me get turned away. I'm humiliated. How could you? I read it twice, then deleted it without replying. There was also a voicemail from my mother. "Diana, this is your mother. I don't know what's gotten into you, but your behavior is unacceptable. Your sister needed that apartment. She told her friends she was moving downtown, and now she has to admit she's still living at home like a child. You've embarrassed her, and us. I hope you're satisfied." The message ended with a sharp click. I saved it, just in case I ever needed proof of how they acted, and placed my phone back in the drawer. Then I made dinner: grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, and a fresh salad. I ate alone at my kitchen table, but I wasn't lonely. I'd learned long ago that solitude was far better than being surrounded by people who didn't respect me. Afterward, I washed the dishes, changed into something comfortable, and settled on the couch with a book I'd been meaning to read for months. For the first time in weeks, I felt a deep sense of calm. My property was rented to a reliable tenant. My finances were stable. My boundaries were firm, and my family had finally realized that I was not someone they could push around whenever it suited them. The next morning, I discovered that my parents and Veronica had blocked me on social media. I found out when I tried to view a photo my mother had posted from Christmas dinner, hoping to see if there were any hints about their plans. Instead, I saw blank profiles and error messages. I almost laughed. They must have thought cutting me off online would somehow punish me, as if I had been clinging to their social media updates. In truth, I barely checked their pages, maybe once a month, more out of boredom than real interest. That day at work, I felt lighter than I had in years. My manager even noticed. "You seem happy today," she said during our morning meeting. "Very productive holiday," I replied with a smile. The hotel was busy with New Year's guests, and I threw myself into work, handling reservations, solving guest issues, coordinating with housekeeping, and managing a brief crisis when an elevator broke down. By the end of my shift, I was exhausted but content. When I returned home that evening, I noticed a card taped to my front door. The handwriting on the envelope was unmistakably my mother's. I brought it inside, set my keys on the counter, and opened it. The card had a simple floral design, and inside was a long message written in her neat handwriting. "Diana, your father and I have been talking, and we think you need to reconsider your actions. Family is the most important thing in life, and you've hurt Veronica deeply. She's been crying for days, barely eating, refusing to leave her room. You did this. We raised you to be kind and giving, but you've become selfish and cold. We're giving you 1 week to change your decision. If you end your tenant's lease and give Veronica the apartment as agreed, we can move forward. If not, you must understand there will be consequences. We cannot maintain a relationship with someone who treats family this way. The choice is yours." I read the card 3 times, first in disbelief, then in anger, and finally in something close to relief. They were giving me an ultimatum, truly believing that cutting me off would make me surrender. They thought I needed their approval more than my self-respect. I walked to the kitchen, opened the drawer, took out a box of matches, and stepped onto the back porch. Holding the card over my small fire pit, I lit a corner and watched the flames consume her carefully written words. The paper curled, blackened, and turned to ash. I didn't reply, call, or text. I simply carried on with my life. 3 days later, my aunt called. We'd never been close. She lived 2 hours away and usually appeared only at family gatherings. "Diana," she said, "I heard about what happened with Veronica." "Did you?" I answered evenly. "Your mother is very upset," she continued. She called me crying. "She said you refused to let Veronica live in your apartment." "My condo," I corrected. "And I didn't refuse, I was never asked." They made that decision on their own, and by the time they told me, the place was already rented to a paying tenant. "Still," my aunt said, "Veronica is family. Couldn't you have made an exception?" "Why?" I asked. "Why should I make exceptions for someone who's never worked for anything? never respected me, and never shown gratitude for anything I've done. Because she's your sister, my aunt replied as if it were obvious. That's not enough, I said. Being related to someone doesn't give them rights to your property or resources, my aunt sighed. Diana, not everything is about money or property. Sometimes family matters more than being right. I agree, I said. Family should matter, but only when it's built on respect and fairness. My parents have never offered that. They've always favored Veronica and expected me to be the responsible one while she got away with everything. I'm done accepting that. So you're just going to cut them off? My aunt asked. They're the ones threatening to cut me off, I pointed out. They said they can't have a relationship with me unless I do what they want. That's not love, that's control. My aunt was quiet for a moment before finally saying, I think you're making a mistake. Family is forever. You'll regret this, they said. Maybe, I replied. But I doubt it. After hanging up, I noticed my hands were trembling again. Not from fear or confusion, but from the exhaustion of constantly justifying myself to people who had already made up their minds about me. When I checked my phone, there was a message from Jessica. She'd sent a photo of her newly decorated living room. The condo looked stunning, filled with plants, artwork, and warm little details that made it feel truly like home. Loving this place. Thanks again for being such a great landlord, she wrote. I smiled and texted back, so glad you're settling in well. Let me know if you need anything. That evening, I decided to give myself a break. After days of stress and family chaos, I felt I'd earned something nice. I drove to my favorite Italian restaurant downtown, a cozy spot known for its amazing pasta. I ordered a glass of red wine and the special of the day, a creamy, flavorful mushroom risotto. I ate slowly, savoring every bite, watching couples, families, and friends laughing and enjoying their meals. It reminded me that life existed beyond my family's dysfunction. Just as I finished, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. This is Veronica. Mom gave me your number since you blocked us. I just want you to know you ruined my life. I had everything planned. I was going to start fresh downtown, maybe get a boutique job, meet new people. Now I'm stuck at home with Mom and Dad treating me like a failure. Everyone knows what happened. My friends keep asking why I'm not downtown yet. You did this. You could have helped me, but you chose to be selfish. I hope you're happy. I read the message twice, then blocked the number. After paying my bill and leaving a generous tip, I walked back to my car. The night air was crisp, the city lights glimmering against the dark sky. I felt calm, steady. Veronica wanted me to feel guilty. My parents wanted me to feel guilty. Even my aunt wanted me to feel guilty. But I didn't. I felt free. The week my parents had given me to reconsider passed without a word from me. I worked, paid bills, checked in with Jessica about the condo, and lived exactly as I wanted to. On the 8th day, my phone rang at 7 a.m. It was my father. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hello, I said. Diana, his tone was cold and distant. Your week is up. Have you reconsidered? No, I said simply. Then this is goodbye, he replied. Your mother and I can't maintain a relationship with someone who treats family the way you've treated Veronica. You've made your choice, and we've made ours. Okay, I said. He paused, maybe expecting me to beg, cry, or plead. When I stayed silent, he continued. We won't be inviting you to family events anymore. Birthdays, holidays, nothing. As far as we're concerned, you're no longer part of this family. I understand, I said calmly. You understand? He repeated, his voice rising. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? I asked. You've given me an ultimatum. I'm not breaking a legal lease or kicking out a good tenant just to satisfy you. If that means losing contact, that's your decision. You're choosing property over family, he said bitterly. No, I replied. I'm choosing self-respect over manipulation. There's a difference. He made a sound of disgust. I don't even know who you are anymore. Yes, you do, I said. I'm the same person I've always been. Someone who works hard, takes care of herself, and doesn't let others take advantage of her. The only difference is I've stopped pretending that your treatment is okay. We've always treated you fairly, he argued. That's not true, and you know it, I said. But it doesn't matter anymore. If you want to cut me off because I wouldn't give Veronica free housing, then go ahead. I'll be fine. My father ended the call without saying goodbye. I sat on the edge of my bed for a few minutes, phone still in hand, waiting for sadness or regret to hit me. But it never did. Instead, I felt an unexpected calm. The decision was made. The uncertainty was gone. No more waiting for the next disappointment. It was over. I got ready for work and carried on with my day as usual. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone to talk about it. I simply accepted the situation and moved on. Over the next few weeks, I realized how little my family had truly been part of my life. I didn't miss the awkward calls with my mother, filled with complaints and barely any interest in how I was doing. I didn't miss the guilt trips or the endless comparisons to Veronica. I didn't miss constantly feeling inadequate, no matter my achievements. What I did notice was the sudden surge of energy that came with the absence of family drama. I felt lighter. I started going to the gym more often, took a spontaneous weekend trip to San Antonio, read books, tried new recipes, and reconnected with old friends who genuinely valued me. Jessica. My tenant turned out to be a perfect renter. She paid rent promptly, kept the place spotless, and even sent me photos of small updates she made, with my permission. She painted one bedroom a soft blue and added floating shelves, giving it a refined look. In February, she texted about a minor leak under the kitchen sink. I called a plumber right away, and it was fixed within 24 hours. Jessica was pleasantly surprised by the quick response. "You're seriously the best landlord I've ever had," she wrote. "Most people take days to handle things like this." "I take care of my properties," I replied. Good tenants deserve timely service. It felt good to be appreciated, to have a professional relationship grounded in mutual respect rather than one-sided expectations. Meanwhile, I heard from a relative that Veronica was still living with my parents and remained unemployed. My aunt accidentally mentioned it during a brief encounter at the grocery store in late February. She looked uneasy, unsure if she should greet me or pretend not to notice. "Hello, Diana," she said finally. "Hello," I replied politely. "How are you?" She asked, though her tone lacked genuine interest. "I'm doing well," I said. "And you?" "Fine, fine," she murmured. "I saw your mother last week. She's still very upset about everything." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, though I didn't mean it. "Veronica is struggling," my aunt continued. "She hasn't found a job. Your mother thinks this whole situation has hurt her confidence." "That's unfortunate," I said neutrally. She stared at me, as if expecting guilt or an offer to help. When I stayed silent, she sighed. "Well, I should go. Take care of yourself, Diana." "You too," I said. I watched her leave with her cart of groceries, feeling nothing, no guilt, no regret, no urge to reconnect. Just quiet relief that the interaction was over. In March, a letter arrived from my parents. It was formally addressed, my full name typed neatly on the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a short message. "Diana, we are writing to inform you that we are removing you from our will. Since you have chosen to value money and property over family, we see no reason to leave you any inheritance. Everything will go to Veronica, who understands the importance of family. We hope you find happiness in your choices." Both my parents had signed it, their signatures deliberate and final. I read it once, then folded it neatly and filed it away with other important papers. It didn't surprise me. I had anticipated something like this. My parents had long used money and gifts as tools of control, and this was just another attempt to punish me. What they never understood was that I had never relied on an inheritance. I had built my own stability. I didn't need their money, never had. Spring arrived, bringing with it a new beginning. The hotel where I worked announced they were opening a second branch across town and needed an experienced manager to help establish and oversee it. The position offered a substantial raise and greater responsibility. I applied right away and was offered the role within a week. My boss said I was the obvious choice, noting how my work ethic and professionalism consistently stood out. "You're one of the most dependable people I've ever worked with," she said. "I have no doubt you'll make the new location thrive." I began the new role in April and threw myself into the challenge of launching a new hotel. There were endless details to handle: hiring staff, setting up systems, coordinating with vendors, and ensuring everything was ready for the grand opening. It was exhausting but also energizing. The hotel opened in May and was an instant success. We had steady bookings from the start, glowing reviews, and a strong, motivated team. I felt genuinely proud of what we had built. Around this time, I started dating someone I'd met through a mutual friend. His name was Trevor, an architect, kind, funny, and considerate. When I told him about my family situation, he listened without judgment. That must have been hard, he said. It was, I admitted, but it needed to happen. I couldn't keep letting them treat me that way. I think you made the right call, Trevor replied. Family should lift you up, not tear you down. It was refreshing to be with someone who understood that healthy relationships require mutual respect and boundaries. We took things slowly, enjoying each other's company without rushing into anything serious. In June, Jessica texted me with some news. Hey Diana, I got a promotion at work. I'll be traveling more, which is exciting. The condo is great for now, but I might need to move to another city in a year or so, depending on how things go. I'll give you plenty of notice, just wanted to keep you in the loop. Congratulations on the promotion, I texted back. And thanks for letting me know. I really appreciate how communicative you are. Keep me updated. Her message made me think about the condo's future. If she eventually moved, I'd need a new tenant, but that was a concern for another time. For now, everything was running smoothly. One Saturday afternoon in July, I was at a downtown cafe working on hotel paperwork when I overheard a conversation at the next table. Two women were talking, and one mentioned my parents by name. I looked over and recognized one of them as a former neighbor from my parents' street. I hadn't seen her in years, but her voice was unmistakable. I feel terrible for them, she said. Their daughter completely cut them off for no reason, just refused to help her own sister. Can you imagine? That's awful, the other woman replied. Family should always come first. Exactly, said the neighbor. And poor Veronica, she's still living at home. I see her sometimes when I drive by. She looks so sad. The whole thing has been so hard on them. I kept my head down, pretending to focus on my laptop. A part of me wanted to speak up, to tell them the truth, that they only knew one side of the story. But I knew it wouldn't matter. People believe what they want to believe, and my parents had clearly painted themselves as victims. I finished my coffee and left quietly, let them believe whatever they wanted. I knew the truth, and that was all that mattered. In August, I received an unexpected message on social media from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. Her name was Olivia, my father's brother's daughter. We had been close growing up, but drifted apart over time. Hey Diana, her message began. I hope this doesn't seem random, but I heard about what happened with your parents and Veronica. I just wanted to say I don't believe you did anything wrong. I've seen how they treat you compared to Veronica for years, and it's always bothered me. You've worked hard for everything you own, and they had no right to expect you to just hand over your property. She ended the message with, if you ever want to grab coffee or catch up, I'd love to hear how you're doing. I stared at her words for a while, feeling an unexpected warmth in my chest. Someone in my family finally saw things clearly. Someone understood, I replied right away. Olivia, thank you for reaching out. Your message means more than you know. I'd love to catch up. Are you free next weekend? We made plans for brunch that Saturday. When we finally met, it felt as though no time had passed. Olivia was kind, genuine, and listened to my side without interrupting or judging. I always knew your parents favored Veronica, Olivia said. My dad noticed it too. He thought it was unfair how much they demanded from you while giving Veronica a free pass. It's nice to hear someone else say that, I admitted. I've spent years wondering if I was selfish or crazy for feeling this way. You're not crazy, Olivia replied firmly. You set a boundary and they couldn't accept it. That's on them, not you. We talked for hours, catching up and promising to stay in touch more often. It reminded me that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up, listens, and supports you when it matters most. As summer turned into fall, things in my life continued to move forward. My job was steady, my relationship with Trevor was growing stronger, and my renewed friendship with Olivia had become a genuine source of happiness. The condo was bringing in consistent income, and Jessica remained a great tenant. I had built a life that I was proud of. One founded on self-respect, effort, and healthy boundaries, all without my parents' approval. By October, the air had cooled and the leaves had begun to change. One Saturday afternoon, while walking through a shopping plaza, I unexpectedly ran into Veronica. It was the first time I had seen her since Christmas dinner nearly 10 months earlier. She was stepping out of a clothing store, arms full of shopping bags. When her eyes met mine, her face cycled through several emotions, surprise, anger, and something that almost looked like shame. Diana, she said. Veronica, I replied evenly. We stood there awkwardly, unsure how to begin. She looked older, not in years, but in weariness. There were shadows under her eyes, and her expensive clothes hung awkwardly, like they no longer fit right. "How have you been?" I asked politely. "Fine," she said quickly, too quickly. "Actually, really great." "Good to hear," I responded. "I've been busy," Veronica continued, speaking faster. "Really busy. I'm thinking about going back to school, or maybe starting a business." "I've got a lot of options." "That sounds nice," I said neutrally. Her face flushed. "I know what you're thinking, that I'm lazy, that I can't handle anything on my own." "I haven't said anything like that," I pointed out. "You don't have to," she snapped. "I can see it in your face. You've always looked down on me. You've always thought you were better, just because you have a job and a house. I don't believe I'm better than you," I said calmly. "But I do believe I made different choices. I worked hard and built something for myself. You decided to let Mom and Dad handle everything. Those were the paths we each chose." "I didn't choose anything," Veronica replied sharply. "They offered. They wanted to help me. They enabled you," I corrected. "There's a difference." Veronica's eyes filled with tears. "You ruined everything. I could have started fresh downtown. I could have figured things out, but you took that away from me." "I didn't take anything from you," I said firmly. "That condo was never yours. I bought it with my own money, and I decided to rent it out. Whatever you, Mom, and Dad agreed on wasn't my concern." "You could have helped me," Veronica said quietly. "I could have," I admitted. "But I chose not to, and I don't regret that." Veronica stared at me for a moment, tears running down her face. Then she turned and walked away quickly, her shopping bag swaying at her sides. I watched her go, feeling only a faint sadness. Not for my choice, but because she still hadn't learned. She still believed the world owed her, that others should sacrifice for her comfort. I continued shopping and went home, leaving the moment behind. 2 weeks later, Olivia called me. "Diana, have you seen the post?" She asked. "What post?" I said. "Your mom posted something on social media about you." My stomach tightened. "What did she say?" "She wrote a long piece about ungrateful children, how she and your dad sacrificed everything only for you to abandon the family. She didn't mention your name, but it's obvious she meant you. The comments are bad. People are saying awful things." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. "Can you send me a screenshot?" "Already did," Olivia replied. I opened the message. The post was long and emotional, filled with phrases like heartbroken parents, selfish generation, and we gave her everything. The comments were even worse. Strangers calling me ungrateful, spoiled, heartless. "Are you okay?" Olivia asked. "I'm fine," I said, and surprisingly I was. She can post whatever she wants. The people who matter know the truth. "Do you want to respond? Set the record straight?" Olivia asked. "No," I said. "Responding will just give her more attention. Let her have her moment." It doesn't change anything, but even as I said it, I felt anger building, not because of the post itself, but because she was still trying to control the story, still casting herself as the victim. I thought about it all day. My mother had given me ultimatums, cut me from the will, spread lies within the family, and now she was publicly shaming me. Through it all, I'd stayed silent, choosing not to engage and to move forward. But maybe it was time for something different. Maybe it was time to stop staying quiet and start speaking up. That evening, I sat at my computer and began to write, not a reply to her post, but something larger, something that told my side clearly and truthfully. I wrote for hours, choosing every word with care, honest but not harsh, factual but not cold. When I finally finished, it was past midnight. I felt at peace with what I had written. I saved the file, closed my laptop, and went to bed, already planning what to do next. The next morning, I called Olivia. "I need your help with something," I said. "Anything," Olivia replied. "Do you remember my parents' anniversary party a few years ago? The one where they invited everyone?" "Of course," I said. "It was at that downtown restaurant, a big celebration for their 30th anniversary." "Right," I continued. "Do you remember how they spent the whole night talking about how proud they were of both their daughters?" Olivia nodded slowly. "Yes, and I remember thinking it was strange because they barely mentioned you. It was mostly about Veronica." "Exactly," I said. "And do you remember Thanksgiving 2 years ago, when my mother told everyone I was too busy with work to help with dinner, when she never actually asked me to help?" "I remember that," Olivia said. You told me later that you had offered multiple times, but she kept insisting she didn't need help. I need your help documenting these things, I told her. Every time my parents lied about me, dismissed me, or favored Veronica, I want to create a record of it. A clear pattern of their behavior. I can help with that, Olivia said. I've seen this happening for years. I can give you plenty of examples. We spent the next 2 hours on the phone, recalling moments and conversations. Olivia's memory was sharp. She remembered details I had nearly forgotten. By the time we hung up, I had pages of notes. What are you planning to do with all this? Olivia asked. I'm not sure yet, I admitted. But I want to be ready. If my mother decides to make this public, maybe I should too. Just be careful, she warned. Once it's out there, you can't take it back. I know, I said. I'll think it through before doing anything. But deep down, I already knew my decision. I was done staying silent. I was done letting my parents control the story. Over the next few days, I refined my statement, fact-checking every point, keeping my tone calm and balanced, and preparing for whatever backlash might come. Then, on a Thursday evening, I posted it. I didn't post it as a reply to my mother's rant. Instead, I made my own post, on my own page, a detailed account of what had truly happened. I explained how I had worked since I was 16 while my parents supported Veronica's lifestyle. How I bought the condo as an investment using my own earnings. How, at Christmas dinner, my parents told me Veronica would be moving in, without asking me first. How I had already rented the condo to a qualified tenant before she showed up. I shared specific examples of how my parents had treated me differently from Veronica, not with anger or resentment, but simply as facts. I let the truth speak for itself. I ended the post with a simple message. I love my family, but I will not be manipulated or guilted into giving up my property or my self-respect. I worked hard for what I have, and I have the right to make decisions about my own life. If that makes me selfish in their eyes, so be it. Then I clicked post and closed my laptop. Within an hour, dozens of comments appeared, mostly supportive. Friends, co-workers, and even acquaintances wrote messages like, "Good for you," and "You did the right thing." Some said, "Your family should be proud of you," not trying to tear you down. A few comments were critical. People who believed that family should always come first, no matter what. Even so, the supportive comments far outnumbered the negative ones. By the next morning, my post had been shared over 100 times. People began messaging me privately, sharing their own stories about family issues and setting boundaries. It was overwhelming, but also deeply validating. That afternoon, Olivia called me. "Have you checked your mother's page?" She asked. "No," I said. "Should I?" "She deleted her post about you," Olivia told me. "And she hasn't posted anything since. I think she realized her version of events doesn't hold up once people hear your side." I felt a rush of quiet satisfaction. "Good," I said. "There's more," Olivia continued. "My dad called me this morning. Apparently, your father reached out yesterday, asking family members to pressure you into deleting your post, but my dad refused. He told your father he read your post and believed you were completely justified." "Really?" I asked, surprised. "Really," Olivia confirmed. "And he's not the only one. Many in the family are starting to question your parents' version of things. People are asking why they treated you and Veronica so differently. Your parents aren't getting the sympathy they expected." I sat down, processing her words. I hadn't written my post to turn the family against my parents. I just wanted to tell the truth and protect my own reputation. But clearly, the truth had a ripple effect I hadn't anticipated. "How do you feel about all this?" Olivia asked. "Honestly," I said, "I feel free for the first time in my life. I don't have to pretend everything's fine anymore. I can be honest, and people can decide for themselves." 3 days later, my mother called. I almost ignored the call, but curiosity got the better of me. "Diana," she said, her voice tight and controlled. "We need to talk." "About what?" I asked. "About that awful thing you posted online," she said. "You made us look like terrible parents." "I told the truth," I replied. "If the truth makes you look bad, that's not my fault." "You embarrassed us," my mother said. Everyone's talking. "Your aunt even skipped dinner last week because she said she needed time to think." "I'm sorry you're embarrassed," I said, "but I'm not sorry I posted it. You started this. You tried to make me seem ungrateful and selfish. I just added context. We're your parents," she said. "You should respect us." Respect goes both ways, I replied. And you haven't respected me for years. You expected me to give up my property for Veronica. You cut me out of your will, and you tried to manipulate me. You can't demand respect you've never given. There was a long silence. I could hear her breathing on the line. What do you want from us? She finally asked, sounding tired. I don't want anything, I said honestly. I just want to live my life without guilt or manipulation. That's all I've ever wanted. So that's it? My mother asked. You're done with us? You're the ones who said we couldn't have a relationship unless I did what you wanted, I reminded her. I'm just accepting your terms. Maybe we were too harsh, she said quietly. Your father and I have been talking. Maybe we overreacted. I felt a flicker of something, not quite hope, but curiosity. What are you saying? I asked. I'm saying maybe we can fix this, she said. If you take down that post, we can start over. We can put all of this behind us. And there it was, the condition. Even now, after everything that had happened, they still couldn't apologize without expecting something in return. No, I said firmly. No, my mother echoed. The post stays up, I continued. It's the truth, and I won't delete it just to make you feel comfortable. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be built on mutual respect and honesty, not on me doing whatever you want just to earn your approval. That's not fair, my mother argued. Actually, that is fair, I replied. I'm not asking for anything other than to be treated as an equal, as an adult with the right to make her own choices. If you can't do that, then there's nothing left to discuss. My mother went silent for a while. Finally, she said, I need to think about this. This isn't what I expected. Take all the time you need, I said, but my stance isn't going to change. She hung up without saying goodbye. I placed my phone down and looked around my cozy living room, the home I'd bought with my own hard-earned money. I had built a good, peaceful life for myself. I had supportive friends, a loving relationship, a job I was proud of, and investments that generated income. I had everything I needed. If my parents couldn't accept that, it was their loss, not mine. 2 weeks later, a handwritten letter arrived from my father, something that immediately surprised me, as he rarely wrote anything by hand. Diana, it began. Your mother and I have been thinking deeply about what you said. While we don't agree with everything you posted, we realize that we made mistakes. We treated you and Veronica differently, and that wasn't fair. We expected you to be independent while allowing Veronica to rely on us. We understand now that it caused resentment. We'd like to rebuild our relationship if you're willing. We're not asking you to take down your post or apologize for your boundaries. We just want a chance to start fresh. If you're open to talking, please let us know. I read the letter 3 times. It wasn't a perfect apology. Phrases like, we don't agree with everything, showed they still weren't taking full responsibility. But it was more than I expected. It was a start. I decided to wait a few days before replying. I wanted to make sure my response came from clarity, not loneliness or the need for connection. After thinking carefully, I wrote back, I appreciate your letter. I'm open to a conversation, but only if we set clear boundaries. My finances and property are mine alone, and I won't be pressured into decisions based on your expectations. I also need you to treat Veronica and me equally, which means holding her accountable for her own life, the same way you expected me to be. If we can agree on that, I'm willing to try rebuilding our relationship. But I won't go back to how things were. I mailed the letter and waited. A week later, my parents called and asked to meet for coffee. I agreed, and we chose a neutral cafe halfway between our homes. The conversation started awkwardly, cautious and polite, but slowly we began to discuss real issues. My mother admitted it had always been easier to care for Veronica than to let her face challenges. My father acknowledged that he took my independence for granted and assumed I didn't need their support. Explained how their favoritism had hurt me over the years, how it made me feel valued only for what I could do, not for who I was. The conversation wasn't perfect. There were tense and defensive moments, but it was honest, something we'd never truly had before. At the end, my mother asked, "What about Veronica?" She's still very upset. Veronica needs to learn to take care of herself, I said firmly. And you both need to stop enabling her. She's 25. It's time for her to grow up, my father nodded. You're right. We've been doing her a disservice. What if she refuses to change? My mother asked. That's her decision, I said. But it's no longer your burden to carry. Over the following months, my parents gradually began to change their approach. They stopped paying Veronica's bills and gave her a deadline to either find a job or move out. It wasn't easy. She resisted every step of the way, but they stayed firm. By spring, Veronica had found a job as a receptionist at a dental office. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a beginning. She moved into a small apartment with a roommate and started, slowly and somewhat reluctantly, to build her own life. My relationship with my parents gradually improved. We were never going to be as close as some families, but we managed to coexist with mutual respect. They stopped placing demands on me, and I stopped expecting them to change overnight. The condo continued to provide a steady source of income. Eventually, Jessica moved away for her job, just as she had planned, and I found another reliable tenant to replace her. My career kept progressing, and after a year of dating, Trevor and I decided to move in together. As for Veronica, she eventually approached me with a reluctant apology. It wasn't sincere. I could sense she still held resentment. But she did admit that being forced to depend on herself had been beneficial. She was finally learning lessons she should have learned long ago. The entire experience taught my family that boundaries aren't acts of cruelty. They're essential for maintaining healthy relationships. My parents realized that treating children equally requires equal expectations, not just equal affection. Veronica learned that no one is entitled to an effortless life. And I learned that standing up for myself isn't selfish. It's necessary. In the end, Veronica never fully recovered from the embarrassment of being turned away from the condo that day. The story spread among her social circle, and she became known as the woman whose sister refused to let her take advantage. Rebuilding her reputation and self-worth proved difficult. My parents also faced repercussions. Several relatives distanced themselves after learning how they had treated me, and their standing within the family declined. They spent years trying to mend relationships damaged by their favoritism and control, but they never regained the same respect. One evening, as I sat on my porch watching the sunset over the city where I had built my life, I reflected on everything. My actions had never been about revenge or cruelty. They were about self-respect. It was about drawing a line and refusing to cross it, no matter the pressure. In the end, the most powerful form of revenge was simply living well and refusing to sacrifice my worth for someone else's comfort.